It's July 15th, 2026. We're live at the Poduty Live Podcast Theater. I'm your host, Jeff Revilla. It's Poduty in the News. I've got an amazing guest from a podcast that I adore. It's Pape from Gamify Business. Paul, do you know what time it is?
Yeah, it's Morbin time.
What time is it? What time is it? It's time for Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
Oh, the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage this side of the Mississippi in Tarentum, Pennsylvania. It's Poduty in the News, and my special guest today, Pape. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. This is going to be a good time.
Oh, we had so much fun together. I was on Gamify Business, your podcast, and it just came out, I think, at the end of June 26th, I saw. And I had so much fun. I was so impressed with the level of detail, with the storytelling, with the whole concept. Can you kind of frame it for us? Tell us how you put this together. It's almost like an RPG, like you're in the middle of a video game, and it's just an incredible experience. I loved it so much. Gamify Business. Tell us a little bit about that, Paul.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Gamify Business Tavern Tales. And what it is Gamify Business is business, but instead of being complicated using business terms, we turned it into a live action role playing game where you are the hero of your own adventure. And so on Gamify Business Tavern Tales, I play the barkeep or the game master, where I bring in other adventurers to talk to them about how they've succeeded in their own adventure. But the little twist that I like to put on it is every adventurer comes in here and has to live within the world of Gamify Business. And so every adventurer that comes in here, regardless of what they do in the real world, come in and they're giving us a backstory. And the backstory has to do with their life and what they've actually accomplished. But I always pit them against either a monster or a trap that they've had to overcome. And every single one of those is included in the upcoming book that I'm selling, which is the Monster Manual for Business. And so that's the gist of Gamify Business Tavern Tales.
Yeah, check it out, gamifybusiness.com. And the whole point of this, you do a nice consulting job too. You really help people, find out, what their purpose is, how to, you simplify that for them. And tell us a little bit about your approach to consulting.
So what we like to do is I work with a lot of creative-minded individuals, entrepreneurs, small businesses, solopreneurs. But what I found through my 20 years of doing my own art-style business is that creative-minded people don't think linearly. No A, B, C, and D. They are cloud thinkers. A, B, F, G, squirrel, grass, that kind of thing. And so what I found is that traditional business approaches does not work for them. It's too complicated or too boring. And so what I realized was that everybody understands gaming. We've all gamed since we were kids, be it board games, video games, live action, tabletop, doesn't matter. We've all played games. So we understand that every single game we play has a specific rule set that we have to play by. And so with Gamify Business, the consulting business that I run, what I actually do is I come into your business and I ask you a series of questions and we get to learn who you are as the adventurer. And it sounds like we're going to play a game, but the reality is we're working with you in real life so that you can earn real money. It's a translation service so that you understand how business operates. And we make it fun. That's the whole point of this. And so I come in, I look through all your stuff. We create your character sheet, which allows you to understand exactly why it is that you're doing the business that you're doing and what you got into it for and why you want to progress into it. And then I create a series of quests. You're given a map, which is basically your 5 or 10 year plan. And we build everything up as quests with rewards because we are reward driven people. And so the whole thing plays out as a game that makes it more fun so that business doesn't feel like a drag anymore. And I do that all from this position as the barkeep. Even when I'm doing my consulting business, I am the barkeep. I come in there and it's a place of service so that we can talk level to level. I don't like to approach coaching or consulting where I'm on high and you have to look up to me. It's all about service to you so that you become the best hero of your own adventure.
you have to check out the website, gamifybusiness.com. I mean, even the website is so well themed. You have the cards, the players, the characters, the roles that people play, even some of the people that you've I forget your wording on it, but the stories that you've told for certain businesses. You have to see the clientele and the people that Paul's worked with. Gamifybusiness.com. The link is in the show notes. Check it out. It's an incredible site, structured the whole way around. It's 10 out of 10 for sure.
Thanks.
Well, that only means one more thing. Are you ready for our stories, Paul?
Oh, absolutely. Love a good story.
Are you ready to see me struggle through reading without my glasses?
Absolutely.
Here we go. For You Fest will debut November 14th and 15th at Great Park in Irvine, California. Produced by C3 Presents and Live Nation, the two-day event is built around creator culture and will feature 3 programming stages dedicated to podcasts and comedy, music, and beauty and fashion. The lineup includes live podcast recordings with Quenlin Blackwell, Tana Mongu, and Owen Thiel. Comedy performances by Caitlin Huron, Drew Alfalo, and Meg Stouter. Music performances by DJ Trixie Mattel and Trisha Paitas. And beauty and fashion masterclasses led by Patrick Ta and Wisdom K. Attendees can also purchase add-ons like culinary and beauty workshops, meet and greet experiences, VIP packages, and premium ticket options. The pre-sale just started, and the festival is taking place at the end of November. And one of the things I love is the way that events are really moving towards this experiential experience. Like they're all in on meeting and greeting with the talent, having these add-ons, these bonuses, having these immersive experiences. And we're seeing so much of that now as people start to return back to conferences, return back to events. I think the public's hungry for this type of entertainment.
Absolutely. I think that it's interesting because after the COVID years, as you just mentioned, we're slowly starting to come back to it. And my background is in live theater. And so we're seeing the resurgence there as well. Even though people are on Broadway, bemoaning that their show closed and that it's the death of Broadway. But the reality is, no, people are starting to head back because we're kind of tired of watching the screen, our tiny screen in our home. Movies ticket sales are going through the roof again. Everybody's really excited to get out there. But I think the one thing that is covered, especially in this event here, is that people are excited to rub elbows and be in the same atmosphere, location as some of these celebrities, or even just, people that, they're minor celebrities, but just, to really get that live feeling and to be around these people and to really exude that energy, I think is excellent.
Yeah, we're just seeing it more and more. And not only that, we're seeing podcasts as part of these event experiences where 10 years ago it would be, a panel with 4 people who are from the corporation that foot the bill for the whole event, and you'd have to listen to their sales pitch for 45 minutes. But the event organizers have realized that podcasting is so dynamic, it's so immersive. When you're in the room and you're seeing how the host reacts with the guest, you're seeing how the host interacts with the audience, how they field questions in real time. It's an exponentially better experience than a panel of 4 suits, telling you about their environmental mission. You get something that you can't get, when you bring a podcast in and you have that live experience. The one thing I tell people, that's a once in a lifetime experience. It's different than comedy. It's different than music where you can go town to town and do the same act or the same routine. But a live podcast, if you can catch it at an event, that's the only time in the history of the world that you're going to see that performance.
Absolutely. It's the best scripted show that you can go see. Like you have an expectation as to who's going to be there, but you have no expectation of what's going to come out of the mouth. And I think that's great. And I think it's great for these events too, because those panels, like you said, are live reacting. It's in that unscriptedness is real. That's not a word, but it is now. That unscriptedness is really what people are excited about. And not only are the presenters recognizing that it's going to be more entertaining for their people, but the hosts and their guests bring their people as well. So it's a way to put butts in seats. It's just a really brilliant way of approaching these outcomes. Because I've sat through both versions of it, the Suits version, and you've never seen more people on their phone, like scrolling, more lights in the audience because they're bored. But when you bring on the people of their life, everybody's literally on the edge of their seat waiting to hear what's going to happen next. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, the Suits are like, I don't know what happened. We thought this was a great idea, that they'd want to hear all about our, initiatives on maximizing profitability. And they're like, no, no, no. They're waiting for 5:00 when the bar opens up in the concourse area. That's part of this. And to be able to take your show on a road and go where your audience is. This is an event for entertainers, and if you're in that, your purpose of your podcast is entertain, and you're in some sort of arts or music or some sort of industry that's parallel to an event that's going on, see how can you tie into that event? Because guess who's in that audience? Your audience. New people who can find out about your show and tag along and join you on future episodes. Go where the audience is, go where the people who are interested in what you're doing, and see how you can get into there, see how you can be a part of those types of events. And this is a great one to try to attach to.
Absolutely.
And trying to attach to, how about this little building? I love this little, it's a little museum in Provincetown, and the Art Gallery Association is going to host a live recording of the Art Colony podcast on July 24th at the Provincetown Commons in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Drink every time I say Provincetown. The event celebrates podcast's 1-year anniversary and will feature a panel discussion about the future of Provincetown's creative community. Host Gaston Lacombe will be joined by Christy McCarthy, CEO of Provincetown Art Association and Museum, Gavin Kennedy of Emergent Art Advisory, and gallery owner Jill Rothenberg Simmons. Attendees are invited to listen to the discussion and participate in a live audience Q&A. Seating is limited, and advance registration is required. And here's a great way to you're in Provincetown, obviously, and you're going to have this podcast live at this art gallery, and it's a way to bring in the community, the local community, talk about Provincetown. I'm sure that's all they're going to talk about is Provincetown, the Provincetown Bakery, the Provincetown municipality, the Provincetown taxes, right? It's all Provincetown all the time, but it's this cute little building where you wouldn't expect to have a live event, to have a live podcast. And I just love these ideas of that these are happening in little communities all across the country, all across the world. These events are happening and they're becoming bigger and bigger.
I love P-Town. I was there with my wife. We walked it. We loved it. It is an arts culture center, and we loved every bit of it. Saw a great drag version of Schitt's Creek. It was fabulous. I mean, this is a natural tie-in, and the atmosphere and the people there are just super wired. It is going to be a great time, and it sounds on paper, especially with that picture of that one kind of dinky little building, it doesn't sound very exciting. But let me tell you, I've been there. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very interesting, and the art, I'm sure, is just going to blow your mind. So if you have the opportunity to head there, head to P-Town, go to Provincetown and enjoy it. I'm going to say P-Town because I don't want to take any more shots, but that's definitely going to be a happening place. And it's really smart because you're tying in not just a podcast audience, but you're tying in an arts community as well as all of P-Town. Is going to be there as well. So I think it's really smart marketing on their part. It's going to boost the podcast because now they're going to bring in people and have that live show. Because, as a person who does a podcast from a bar in my basement, there's not a lot of live representation here. This is their 1-year anniversary. So they're like, let's throw out the live show. And I think that the turnout's going to be great. I think the energy is going to be really happening. It's going to be a good time. And it's a smart move for people. Throw it out on an anniversary. Bring in local people, get that live energy feel that you're very familiar with, Jeff, and just really experience it. So if you're running a podcast and you've got some kind of anniversary, be it a year or even a number coming up here, it's our 60th episode or whatever, throw out some live audience. And let me tell you, I've done live audiences of 2 people, but it was enough chuckle from the audience to land the jokes that it ended up being a really good time. So I think this is going to be a great event.
Yeah, and think about your hometown, your community. If you don't have a P-Town Arts Gallery in your neighborhood, there are ways to do things like this in your hometown. Maybe you don't have the theater like we have here, or you don't have the art gallery who's already putting something together, but you could be the person in your town that puts something together for local community members. Like Paul and I said, people are hungry for in-person events, and these little like boutique events are popping up all over the place. And if they're not happening in your town, maybe it's your turn, to step up and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Well, what else is happening? Podcasting, as we're hearing, it's a big thing. And I'm also a little biased on this next article because, hey, look where this is. This was just in the paper, and it looks very familiar. We were, the local paper was talking about how podcasting is really up and coming, and Pittsburgh has a really great scene. There's a lot of things happening here, and they reached out to me for a comment, which I appreciate, and they also used the picture from the theater to represent podcasting in Pittsburgh. So, of course, I picked this article. The Trib Live recently published a feature highlighting the continued growth of podcasting in the Pittsburgh region. The article references Pew Research Center data showing that more than half of U.S. adults listened to a podcast during the past year. It spotlights several local shows, including Yins Are Good, Trivia with Jeff, Ya Jagoff, and Werewolf Ambulance. The story also features Poduty Podcast Theater in Tarentum, where Trivia with Jeff is filmed and recorded with a live audience, and where other independent podcasters can host live podcast events. In addition, the article highlights the area's growing podcast community and the regular networking meetups for local creators, which I also planted that because I am the one who hosts a monthly podcast meetup, and we have one coming up Sunday, July 19th, if you're in the Pittsburgh area. But, this is proof. This is catching on. This is a form of entertainment, is becoming a mainstream form of entertainment. We had an article already about a conference that's showcasing podcasting. Provincetown is having a podcast at their art gallery. The local paper, the biggest paper in Pittsburgh, is talking about the rise of podcasting and giving these examples. This is becoming a form of entertainment the same way comedy clubs popped up in the 80s to support comedians wanting places to perform that weren't just the backs of Chinese restaurants or bowling alleys. That's where they used to perform comedy before there were comedy clubs. And even like bars and restaurants grew into venues that were dedicated to music. And this is the time. This is the time where this is happening for podcasting. And the paper's picking it up. The news outlets are picking it up. The research is starting to show that, hey, podcasting is so much more than just an audio file. It's an experience. It can be something more than just something you listen to on your morning commute.
Absolutely. And what I love about this is, the genre, and I think one of your next stories is going to really dig into this a little bit more, but like the whole point of the podcast is that somebody has a point of view that they want to express. They have a gimmick that they're trying to sell, they're talking about either comedy or the news or something like that. And everybody's has got a take. But the thing is like we used to watch broadcast news on 3 channels, and now we've got millions of podcasts where, if you want a very specific take, the riches are in the niches. That niche is out there, and you can go and look at that very specific podcast and not just hear it, but you can actually watch it and engage with those people. And then if you have the opportunity to go see it live, it's even more entertaining. So I think it's really neat that we're taking like the news and we're having these independent like news people just go out there, like really dig into this and then ask the audience for a genuine opinion on it. So ask your audience, hey, what do you guys think about this? And then there's that live feedback that we can get, especially in like a live atmosphere, or even if they're just putting it out online live so that they get some feedback as well. I think it's just a brilliant way of doing that. And I'm glad that the paper is picking it up. And, not pat you on the back, but, I'm glad that they put you front and center on that one because it's a brilliant, and we were talking about this before this even aired. This is a brilliant way of approaching podcasting because I know there's a lot of smaller people smaller podcasts that think I can't bring in the audience. I don't have the audience. But you're proving them wrong. And you're like, yes, you can do this and you can do it live. And then to give those podcasts that are used to recording in a small studio, in a basement, whatever, the opportunity to hear it live, to get the feedback instantaneously from their audience, it's choice. So congratulations on that shout out there, Jeff. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm very bullish on live events, but we hear all we hear in the media, at least from podcast news sources, is, audio was dominant from 2005 to 2020, but now video is the future. Video is now. Video is the future. Video is all podcasting is going to be. And I'm really offering another perspective that beyond video is live, is in person, is having these electric moments with a theater full of people that you just can't. You'll never capture that in a home studio, or you have to really experience a live podcast. It's a whole different game. And until you really experience it, until you go see maybe a touring podcast that's coming to your town, or you host one yourself, you'll never know like how far you can take this and how big podcasting can be. And live is just exponentially better than video. You'll get the video at the end of it, but live is an experience that you just can't get anywhere else.
There's something to be said about the ability to read micro expressions, the twitch of a foot, the whatever. I mean, there's just something that we get from seeing the full, full person that you don't necessarily get with just the crop that like what you don't know right now. I'm wearing shorts because it's 90 degrees outside. But here I am in 3-piece suit, but shorts. It's those types of things that you just don't get when you're doing these on video. And I hope I guest on a lot of podcasts as well. And the last time I was on one that was audio only, it felt half there. It's like this, we're missing. I know it's a podcast, but we're missing something. And then to do it live like this is great. And I see myself up on the screen, but let me tell you, I'd rather be sitting in that chair next to you because there's something better for it, for being there live and in person. There's a lot more that you can play off of. And so it's if you have that opportunity, 100% grab it by the reins, go for it.
Well, and as soon as you're in Pittsburgh, the stage is yours. Awesome. Because I know you're excited, I believe, about the next story. Hey, Jonas.
Yeah, that's right.
The Jonas Brothers will record a live episode of their podcast, Hey, Jonas, during D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan event on Sunday, August 16th at the Anaheim Convention Center. The live recording will feature Disney stories, behind-the-scenes memories, and special guests as Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas celebrate being named Disney Legends later that evening. The podcast launched in May and gives fans an inside look at the brothers' lives on and off stage. Previous guests have included Seth Meyers, Millie Bobby Brown, William Shatner, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Experience, takes place August 14th through the 16th in Anaheim. Paul, you want to take this one? You were excited to get to it.
I really was. No, this is one of those opportunities. I'm from the entertainment industry, and I do a lot of conventions, and nothing packs a stage, like the audience for a stage, than having a celebrity come in and do a panel. Now, what we want to know is we want to know the ins and outs. We want to know the secrets that happen behind it. And that's why we rely on those panels. Like if you ever go to San Diego Comic-Con, those panels sell out. And what's interesting is the Jonas Brothers are giving you not only that experience, but they're giving like behind the scenes of what they're doing, but they're also bringing in other celebrities or other guests to kind of give you a little bit of behind that, because the audience craves that the information to make the celebrities feel more real. And so if you ever want to experience, that celebrity, and when you're recording these little things like D23 with this event, it's not going to be a 6,000 person house. It's not Madison Square Garden. It's going to be an intimate engagement. I mean, it might be intimate like 700 people, but it's still intimate in that regard. And that's going to be so much more exciting to be person in that audience, to be able to get that live. And when you're recording podcasts like this, as I'm sure you're aware, Jeff, not all of it ends up on the air. Some of it ends up on the floor for time or for, cursing, whatever you want to be. So I'm sure that there's going to be some bits of it that, being there live, experience it, you're going to get more out of that. You're going to have this literally like behind the scenes look at the behind the scenes information that they're giving you. It's an experience that I think you could really get a lot out of if you're a fan of the Jonas Brothers.
Well, you touched on something very important. The Jonas Brothers, celebrities in their own right. They've paved their own way. They're, global sensation, the Jonas Brothers. And so people go to see them. But when they're there, you're also finding out what they're interested in. You're hearing about their stories, their tour stories, coming up through the Disney system. But then they're bringing in, their people that they're fans of, the celebrities, different musicians, and they're telling other stories. So you're hearing, firsthand from the people you're interested in about the things that they're interested in. it really creates this ripple effect and this builds this ecosystem all around the Jonas Brothers of who they are and the things that they're interested in. And but that also trickles down to like me, if I'm hosting my trivia show and I'm doing goofy things with goofy guests, and those goofy guests become part of the show. And it works on a micro level too. So if you're hosting your show, people are coming to see you, but they're also coming because of you and who you are and what you're interested in. And that's the Jonas Brothers are just doing that on a much bigger scale.
Right. Absolutely. And that's really one of the things that I think a lot of people overlook is that people love stories, and especially stories that have got a little bit of dirt in them, or got a little bit, it's that lived experience, because they're all just humans, it's even celebrities. And so I've sat on many stages where I've been able to tell, like, I've got pocket stories we all bring out, and I get people like screaming at me, tell this story again, because people just love hearing it live, love hearing the nuance and seeing and getting to know a little bit more of like how things work, because, we want to be able to relate to some degree to those people. And whether it's a celebrity of the Jonas Brothers levels, or even, you or I, if we went there, they want to know what's behind it, because we've had, the bravery to go and put ourselves on something in front of a live audience. And so to get that insight is something that people clamor for. So do it.
Speaking of going live in front of a live audience, you got Kurt Braunholler, right? Brings stand-up comedy to a live Bananas podcast at Comedy Works. Kurt Braunholler performed at Comedy Works Larimer Square in Denver from July 9th through the 11th, a 3-day tour with a weekend that included both stand-up comedy and a live podcast recording. Along with multiple comedy performances, Braunholler and host Scotty Lands recorded the live episode of their comedy podcast Bananas on Saturday, July 11th at 3 p.m. The show featured unusual news stories, audience participation, and the offbeat humor the podcast is known for. Tickets for the performances range from $25 to $32. And one of the things I want to touch on this story is when we're talking about going out and having a night out, these podcasts aren't breaking the bank. A lot of them are $20, $25. The max ticket here was $32, probably for like a front row reserve seat. And you probably got 90 minutes and 2 hours of entertainment. You had a great time, you laughed, and they're not bank breaking experiences. They're immersive. If this is a fan, you're a fan of his comedy, you're going to enjoy this in a way that you would enjoy way more than you would enjoy just hearing a stand-up special or a normal routine. This kind of expands, what the performance can be.
Absolutely. I'm a fan of Bananas. I listen to that podcast. It's a great one for the road, great stories, but I can guarantee you seeing it live is going to add to that experience. And you're absolutely correct. When you said those pricing, I was like, that's a steal. That's an absolute steal to go and be entertained for 2 hours. I mean, $32 for a seat. Movies are that much these days, and you're not even getting that much, that much time out of it. And again, you're capturing a moment that will never be repeated again. So, I can go pay $35 to go see a movie, but everybody else is seeing the exact same movie. Doesn't matter when they go, but you're paying $32 at most to go see this live performance that will never happen again. It's just, it's mind boggling to not take advantage of something like that. And that show in particular is a hoot. And the stories that they tell, they've done some stuff. So if you have a chance to ever catch Bananas live, definitely do that.
A once in a lifetime performance for $30. It'll never be repeated again.
Yeah. Crazy.
And this is a great model. We see a lot of touring comics start to bring their podcasts on the road. One of the most famous ones that does this is Doug Loves Movies with Doug Benson, a comedian for 30 plus years, has been touring. And I think Doug Loves Movies has to be 15, 20 years old. I mean, it's an original podcast. And he started going around, and at 420, it's this thing. He will do an episode of his podcast, Doug Loves Movies, while he's on the road touring these comedy clubs. And what he found out is nobody's at the comedy club at 4 p.m, but he could add a third show that day, do a podcast at 4 o'clock, do the 7 o'clock, do the 9 o'clock, and if there's time, do 11 o'clock. But you're able to add an extra show while you're on tour. And why not take your podcast on the road, utilize that downtime of the comedy club, and squeeze in an extra opportunity to sell some tickets and perform in a different way for your audience.
Absolutely. It's probably one of the best warm-ups that you could have too, if you're going to go on and later on do that show to, because a lot of comedy shows, you've got the opening act and they're priming the audience for you, but it's also priming the comedian who's going to go out there and do their thing. To be able to go out there, do your own podcast to an audience who's expecting you to be you, it's a great warm-up for you. It gives you that energy. Like when I do a great podcast, my day is set. And so then I can go on and do whatever. So to have that opportunity. So if you're doing a tour or whatever, find those golden times in the space that you're at. And, it takes nothing to ask them if you could add a little bit more time, because you're the one filling the seats. And let me tell you, they're taking a part of the door. So they're going to be okay making a little bit of extra money for them to open the door a little bit earlier for you. So take advantage of that if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, I've always loved that model. I think it's a genius idea to utilize downtime. And we talk about this theater here. If I'm not here or I don't have an event, I got downtime. If I only have 2 or 3 events that week, I've got 4 days where I'm still paying rent, I'm still paying electricity, I'm still paying the bills, but there's no money coming in. So if you have an idea and you know that, okay, the coffee shop in our town is dead at 3:00 on Sunday afternoons, or this pizza shop has a banquet room they never use, and you can bring in 10, 15 people and you talk to that business owner, well, utilize that downtime. Figure out, how can I add something to my community, add something to this business, and in turn get a free space to perform and record my podcast. It's live from Donnie Bonaducci's Pizzeria from the back room. That's a story that goes along with your podcast, and you're building this legacy. You're building what do they call, like Sasquatch? Like what's that called when you're
the mythology to it, urban legend. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you're building this mystery around your podcast, and it's all because you're trying to build something. And being resourceful and utilizing the community, finding those down times, finding those down spaces, and building them up, building them into something. When you bring in an audience, that pizza shop wins. You win because you got a space to record a show, and it really uplifts the community.
And it also makes the podcast seem more solid to be able to say, this episode sponsored by. When we get that sponsorship kind of locked into there, that adds a level of authority to your podcast. Instead of saying, hey, brought to you from my basement, it doesn't ring the same as brought to you by Bonaducci's Pizza from the back room. Come out here and try a slice. And also that opportunity can outlast the space that you borrowed for an evening. If they really enjoy what you're doing, all you got to do is have a simple conversation. Be like, would you like to sponsor this going forward? It's a huge opportunity for you. So take advantage of those places and get to know your community. Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned basement. Half the name of the next story is the Basement Yard Podcast. Will bring its national tour to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark on Friday, January 15th, 2027. We're already booking into next year. Hosted by longtime friends Joe Santagato and Frank Alvarez, the comedy podcast is known for its unscripted conversations, audience interaction, and humorous debates. The show has previously sold out venues including Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden, and earlier this year, the Basement Yard received the Best Overall Ensemble Award at the 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards. The newer performance takes place at 8 p.m. in Prudential Hall.
How upset do you think that Frank is that they misspelled his name at least once somewhere in there? Is either in the byline or in the paragraph. They left out a letter. Like, oh, he's going to be mad. But no publicity, any publicity is good publicity, right? So,
Absolutely. If you go back to the article, they spelled my name 3 different ways in the article. I was like, it's Revilla. They had Raverive. I was like, you had it right the first time. Just copy it. But yeah, I mean, it happens. It's part of part of the journalism, and to be able to build something. The Basement Yard Podcast. I'd love to know the backstory. Did this start in the backyard, in the basement, where these 2 friends that just started recording for fun, and now it's grown to something where they've sold out Radio City Music Hall. They're at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark. They're taking this show on the road. It's a passion that they love to talk about. They love, performing for people, and people are responding to it. They're showing up they're part of these live shows, and they're coming. They're buying. Those audience members are buying tickets to come see the Basement Yard.
Yeah. And you could get there. I mean, that's the thing is we all think, there are a ton of podcasts out there, and you're like, well, I'll never be that big, but you could literally be the Backyard Basement People and be like, this show will never get anywhere. But if you set it up correctly and start small, go into your theater here and just do it in front of a smaller audience, and you'll know it'll grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And it doesn't take as long, and it's not as mysterious as we think it is. There is no golden ticket that you need to win. It's about working it and getting into the smaller rooms first, and then medium rooms, and then getting into larger rooms. But it's absolutely possible for even the weirdest podcast to get that kind of a following and have them perform live to your adoring fans. And they're not just buying tickets, they're buying merch as well, which is always going to be great. So this becomes a living as opposed to that passion project that you're doing on the side.
Yeah, when we start talking about monetization, I'll go crazy. We'll go on a 10-minute tangent, but you can start to add in so many more layers to your podcast. It's not just about reading host read ads for MeUndies or Purple Mattress or Sherry's Berries. There are so many more ways to monetize a podcast, and when you incorporate live, there's ticket sales, sponsorships, advertising, posters, merchandise, pins, T-shirts. There are so many things. VIP experiences, meet and greets. There are some BYOB tickets. There's so many ways to tease up the ticket and the value that you can deliver to the audience. And just these small little ways can add so many different streams of income. And I will talk for hours about the benefits of going live and why to do it. I just see it as so much potential for 90% of podcasters who are never going to be able to do a host read ad because they don't have the volume. Not those 90% of podcasters can walk out on their first night with money in their pocket doing a live podcast. So that's my spiel. I'm not gonna go into it because we'll go on a 45-minute tangent. And Paul, I warned you, it goes by super quick. We did our 6 stories already.
Wow.
The Gamify Business, the website is incredible. I encourage everybody to go check it out. But before you do that, one last time, I turn the entire stage back over to Paul. Paul, you can plug, promote, talk about anything you'd like. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So yeah, if you guys have an opportunity or you're just a little bit curious about what Gamify Business actually does, I encourage you to go over to the website, gamifybusiness.com. That's GAMIFY business.com/quiz. Because what would Gamify Business be without a game that you can play immediately? So what you'll learn is your business personality. You're going to be awarded one of 6 different classes, be it a wizard, a warrior, a sage, a ranger, an artificer. You get to be told what you are in your business thinking. And the important thing to take away from that is not only do you get to this cool little card, this digital little avatar for yourself, but you'll get a free 11 to 14 page deep dive into how you personally approach business. And not only that, I'll even throw in absolutely free of charge your ideal partner, because no person can do it alone. And so you need to find a person who has a personality that works best with you, is a great complement, but is not you. And so that's also included free. So again, that's gamifybusiness.com/quiz. And while I've got you here, I'd like to talk about all books that I sell here. So if this is something that you're interested in, I sell the Creative Players Handbook to Business, which is basically the character creation process. When you finish this book, and it is a game, it's filled with a lot of things that you can do in here to keep yourself entertained. It's made for the ADHD and neurospicy people. Even though you can be like a normie, that's fine, but it's made for that, so it'll keep your interest. When you're done with this, you have a business plan with a 90-day plan of action where you can start earning real-world money the day you're done with the book. I also sell all sorts of other books that go along with it, but please go check it out at gamifybusiness.com. Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. And we have a thing called Poduty and the Crew, where after your episode drops, you will be inducted into the crew, and it's all the links from all my guests. We'll have Gamify Business in there. We'll have all the social profiles. We'll have all the ways to connect with Paul. So go to news.poduty.com/the crew and check out Paul Pape in the crew. Paul, Do you remember what time it was?
Yeah, it's Morbin time.
What time is it? What time is it?